Welcome, everybody, to No Room for Comfort podcast. I am your host, Jesse Waterhouse, and I am streaming live here on YouTube as well as Twitch, and that goes every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can also find all of my recorded episodes on Spotify. I do have a Discord chat open if anyone wants to join that chat, as well as chats on YouTube and Twitch, so I'll be looking out for that. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, as well as TikTok, so please like, subscribe, and share. If you have any questions or suggestions for a future topic, please email me at noroomforcomfortpodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you'd like to be a call-in guest at some point about a unique experience in your life or a future topic that you have in mind, again, please email me at noroomforcomfortpodcast@gmail.com, and I would love to have that conversation. No Room for Comfort is a podcast that is designed to talk about personal growth as well as confidence and any positive aspect that you have in your life. So I'm very thankful for everyone being here tonight. It means a lot to me, so thanks for tuning in. On today's episode, what I'm going to be diving into is the topic of emotional intelligence. I'm going to talk about what emotional intelligence is, the importance of emotional intelligence, the effects of emotional intelligence, and the key steps to building up your emotional intelligence. So with that being said, let's get started. What is emotional intelligence? Well, personally for me, what emotional intelligence is about knowing your strengths and weaknesses. Not only that, but it is being able to control your emotions, being in control of what you feel and recognizing what you feel, as well as picking up on social cues from other people in relationships, as well as, just kind of having empathy for people on what they're feeling and putting yourself in their shoes. And having an emotional intelligence it's all tuned into when you do have empathy for other people or, put your feet in their shoes, you basically recognize what it takes to know the aspects of what they're feeling and what they're trying to achieve. So you kind of open up this space and not be stuck in a bubble of your own world, but know and try and recognize what they're feeling. So that is, to sum up, what emotional intelligence is. And now there's a lot of people out there that, with maturity, they tend to gain emotional intelligence. Through experience, they tend to gain emotional intelligence. And there are a lot of positive net benefits to actually having emotional intelligence. And if you take a look at history or with people in general, some of the most successful people aren't the ones that have the highest IQ. If you have a very successful person, he tends to hire people that are smarter than them to solve the problems that they need solved. But they need high emotional intelligence in order to find those people and to get out there and get the people that they need to get the work done, and they work with those people. And their high emotional intelligence allows them to build this social network and to be able to feel what people feel and recognize what people need, as well as the people that are employed under them, to get everyone feeling like they're on the same page, to get everyone feeling happy and passionate about the goals and missions that they have in mind. So when I say that, we can dive into what is important about emotional intelligence. Why is emotional intelligence so important? Well, it's so important because if you are the type of person who isn't able to manage their stress well, and let's say you have a lower emotional intelligence to where you aren't seeing within yourself to be able to take hold of the emotions that you have, well, then things can get blown out of proportion for you, or you can feel emotions that are way off the spectrum, and it just really isn't a good thing because you're so focused on what you're worrying about that you're not actually going to be able to dive into what it takes to get where you need to be or to achieve what you need to achieve. You're just too worried about it. And that's where the importance of emotional intelligence comes, into effect. The more experience you have with it, the more you're going to be able to actually sit across from the table with somebody and be able to perform like conflict resolution. And the thing about conflict resolution is, it doesn't need to be shown as a negative thing. It doesn't need to have the stigma of having this negative aura when it comes to conflict resolution, because the word resolution, in fact, is in there. So that alone tells you that it doesn't need to be in a negative thing. And when you are able to sit there and have a conversation with somebody, which this is something that I feel in society it lacks. It lacks unbelievably at this point. If you take a look at our country, the United States of America, everybody is so politically divided, or they're divided on so many different issues. But what people have trouble doing right now, if you take a look at like any 30-second clip you have of anything on any social media, it gets pulled out of context, for one. And two, it doesn't give anyone the opportunity to take a look at each other's own perspective. So within conflict resolution, it means sitting down across from the table of another person, having differentiated views, and being able to have a conversation with them and looking at them, all the while disagreeing with what they're saying, but having the emotional intelligence to say, hey, you know what? You are making a point there in whatever it may be. And it is very important right now that we do this, that we have conversations with each other about whatever it is that we're having, so that we can learn from each other and move past this gigantic speed bump that we have within our society. And it takes emotional intelligence in order to do that. What else do we have if we don't have that? So if you take a look at your peer and you sit down across the table from them and they have a differentiating view of what you feel, what can you learn from them? You have to put yourself in their shoes and see their point and the way that they are feeling things, and picking up on their nonverbal cues in order to feel what they're feeling. Why are they feeling the way that they're feeling? If we have emotional intelligence and we have these conversations, then we're going to be able to ask each other the right questions in order to make it through this shit. It's as simple as that. And that's where the importance of emotional intelligence comes from. Now, if you turn the tides towards yourself and you look at what are the effects of emotional intelligence, well, I can give you an example. Let's talk about career. Let's talk about a place you want to get to in your career. I would say for the most of us, we want to excel in our career. We want to achieve something. We want to build a legacy. We want something to foster that we care for, that we are passionate about, because we are human beings and we want that for ourselves and our lives. Without emotional intelligence, how will we accomplish that? How are we going to navigate the social complexities that come with excelling in our career without emotional intelligence? It's not going to be a very easy thing. So we have to learn how to do that. We have to learn about emotional intelligence, and we have to build from it to become who we want to be, not only for ourselves, but the people around us, the people that we care for, the people that we love, the people that we serve. And that is a great thing about emotional intelligence. That is the thing about emotional intelligence that is going to strive above IQ. You can be the smartest person at your job. Let's say that you know a network of something so well that is unfathomable. Like it is the greatest product that you could possibly think of. But if you don't have the emotional intelligence to connect with somebody, to have the social ability to connect with somebody and be able to sell that to somebody or to be able to enhance somebody's life with it, how is that ever going to get out there? It won't without the emotional intelligence. So like I said, in your career, to have the emotional intelligence, to have the social connectivity with somebody, to be able to bring it to them, not because it's going to be your personal gain, but because it's going to enhance their business, it's going to enhance their lives, their loved ones' lives, and you can connect with them and build trust with them so that you can share that with them. That is where the importance of emotional intelligence will come from on a career standpoint. How about your physical health? Let's talk about that. If you are the type of person who has the inability to manage stress, where you get into situations that are so overwhelming and your anxiety and your panic takes over you and you cannot control your emotions. Or adversely, you are the type of person who gets so angry that your emotions are controlling you. What type of physical health effect do you feel that will have on you? In my opinion, it will be consequentially devastating. If you cannot learn to manage stress, there are consequences to that. In result of that, you may experience high blood pressure, heart health issues, anxiety, depression, which will relate to the mental health aspect of this, which I will get to in a moment. But to carry all that weight with you and not to learn how to manage it is not going to be good for anyone. The mental health aspect, the anxiety, the depression, the weight, the burden that you would feel because of the lack of emotional intelligence. You won't be able to understand your emotions, and at some point, your body will go into self-preservation mode and you will actually shut certain emotions off to try and save yourself from what you're feeling because it's just too much. And it could leave you feeling isolated, which further takes you away from your social network. It takes you away from everything that you feel that could be right or your ability to help others or yourself. The relationship aspect affecting you from the lack of emotional intelligence. If you cannot be in tune with your own emotions, how are you going to be in tune with anyone else's emotions or anyone else's emotional intelligence or empathy in any regard? You won't be able to. And the reason why is you're going to be so fixated on the worry that you feel that you almost feel like you can't figure out, that you won't be able to even pay attention to the way other people are cueing you or the way other people are feeling. What does that do in turn? That tears apart your social connection with anyone else. So it is very important, the next topic I'll get to after we're done with all of these effects, which will be the keys to building your emotional intelligence. Social intelligence is also a part that pairs with relationship emotional intelligence. If you're in tune with your emotions, you're also going to be in tune with exactly, what other people feel in the world that's around you. It enables you to recognize, if someone's a friend or a foe to you. Because I'll get into it. So there are going to be people. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's say you have a good amount of or emotional intelligence. Let's say that you work towards something that you don't talk to anyone about. You're working towards this passion, this achievement that you really want to achieve, and you're getting into it, and you get to this point to where you achieve the goals you want to achieve, that you're successful. You're successful financially, you're successful socially, you're successful in all of these aspects of what it means to be successful in the goal that you're trying to achieve. And you have great friends out there, right? And some of these great friends are going to congratulate you. They're going to tell you, awesome, that's so amazing. Once they find out about it, they're going to tell you, this is the most amazing thing, man. I'm so happy for you. I've done this in my music career, and people have been that way. They've been so happy for me for what I've been able to achieve. And adversely, I've had people in my life where you not necessarily talk about the achievements that you've achieved, but people have found out about them, and people who have resembled themselves as close friends, and they can still be close friends. Or they can be acquaintances, or whoever it is on this spectrum, who have their own ideas, and they say, you know what? I don't know about that. There's a risk in doing that with the way, whatever it is. This doesn't have to be in music. It could be anything else. It could be like, this is the way the market is, the way the economy is, blah, 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 blah. Why would you take that risk, this and that, this and that? And they have these critical thoughts about why you're doing what they're doing. Well, personally, I feel that some of these people have like almost this sense of jealousy about, they want to be where you're at, or they want to lead where you're leading. They want to inspire where you're inspiring, but they haven't quite figured it out. And they tend to be critical of it. So they kind of throw these excuses out that will almost try to tear down what you're doing. And it doesn't mean, that you should shun them for it, right? It's just their indirect way of trying to express that they wish they knew how to do what you were trying to succeed at. And one of the powerful things a person can do in that case is, well, a person with low emotional intelligence, what might they do? They might get very angry. They might get very angry and destroy that relationship instantaneously. They might just get angry and destroy that relationship. And then when they get angry and destroy that relationship, they're going to doubt themselves. They'll turn in on themselves and they'll doubt themselves because they couldn't control the emotions of that moment. They couldn't manage the stress, and then they turned in on themselves and maybe thought to themselves that maybe this isn't a good idea. Maybe that person is right. Well, that's not exactly the right step to do. If you're feeling that pressure from somebody and you have high emotional intelligence, well, the stress management is there. In fact, if you're at that point to what I'm speaking, the pressure is not even felt. The best thing I feel that a person can do in that situation is you could do one of two things. You could say, I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate what you're saying. We'll see where this goes, and just walk away. Or the other way is to just grow silent. Just be completely silent about it. No words. You don't have to, explain yourself for what you're doing and your achievements. No words. Silence. And then walk away. Anytime I've ever done that, the people that were critical of me have usually come back to me and they've said, I think I may have said some things harshly, because they'll go back and it'll instill empathy within them. They'll look at themselves in the mirror and they'll be like, you know what? Maybe what I said wasn't the right thing to say. Maybe it was too harsh. I was thinking in the moment. I didn't have, they aren't physically or mentally telling themselves I didn't have the emotional intelligence, but they are possibly saying to themselves, you know what? Oh, maybe he didn't deserve those words. Maybe I said those out of impulse. And they'll come back and they'll say, hey, I apologize for that. I didn't mean for it to sound that way. I just sort of want to know what you did to get to where you are. And what does that open up? That actually opens up you an opportunity for you to gain trust with another person, as well as, help them out, which denying help to another person it tears you down. So on second thought of that, it's actually a very good thing. Sometimes fewer words are better than trying to over-explain or trying to exacerbate the emotions that may surface. So with that being said, let's kind of dive into the key steps that it would take for a person to build emotional intelligence. I'll explain. I've had lapses in my life where, so many of them, where I haven't had the emotional intelligence that I've needed. I've felt times in my life where I was angry. And what came of that? Well, consequences or lack of progress, quite honestly. So with that all being said, it does take experience, it does take patience, it does take practice to actually feel all of those things and to actually navigate all of those things, because it isn't always easy, and it isn't the same experience for everyone out there. It's just not going to be. So that's a very important thing to note and to keep consideration of, because it isn't going to be the same for everybody. Everyone's journey is all going to be different. And that's perfectly okay. So the first thing I would say about the key steps to building emotional intelligence, well, that's going to be self-management. What does that mean? Well, take a time where something very stressful overwhelmed you, right? Was it easy to think with clarity and get through that moment? Well, probably not. In most cases, probably not. So you start being self-aware in situations if you gain emotional intelligence and you see that this is an overwhelming situation. What can I do to resolve it? Well, I'll give you my opinion of what a person can do to resolve that situation. Let's take, for example, that you have a very difficult project for work, right? It's a very difficult project, and you have a jumbled up mess of problems that you need to solve. And you're overwhelmed, and you're worried, and you're angry, and you're anxious about how this is all going to get done by this strict deadline. How am I going to possibly get this all done? And the way people keep throwing things at you, it makes you angry. Well, what you need to do is you need to get in control of your emotions first. You need to not feel so worried, not feel so fearful, not feel so angry. You just need to take things at face value. And what you can do to manage the stress, which this is the number one thing, and the first step is to managing the stress. And I'll give you my opinion on how to manage that stress. How do you manage the stress of that? In this situation, this example, I have this jumbled up mess of tasks I need to perform, by a specific strict deadline. How do I manage that stress? What do I do about it? Well, the first thing you can do is, without any organization, you take a look at all of the major problems. Let's say there are 5 of them. You take them and you cut them into pieces. 5 different problems, no order whatsoever, and you lay them out on the table. You write them down on a piece of note paper, all 5 of them, and you lay them all down. There you are. There are your 5 major problems. And not is to say that these 5 problems don't have micro problems within them, but the thing is, solving those micro problems and those small steps towards solving the big problem is the actual step to solving the big problem. So, makes sense, right? You have 5 problems. You lay them all out. Then you look at all of them and you think about all of them one by one. What is the next step to that for your stress management step? Instead of freaking out and getting angry about the things that you have to do, right, with low emotional intelligence, that is what would come with low emotional intelligence. What you end up doing is you taking all of those problems, seeing the deadline, and you're like, how do I prioritize these? And then you start prioritizing them. And you prioritize them and you lay them out in order of what needs to get done first, from step to step to step to step to step, all the way 1 through 5. Making sense so far? Great. A lot of the time, when you're laying these out in priority, you take the biggest bite first. And by that, what I mean is, the most difficult, largest, time-consuming problem is going to be typically the first one that you tackle. And the thing with doing that and getting that done, once you get that first one done, the rest of them are going to be nothing to you. You're going to have so much motivation and sense of achievement that you're going to fly through the rest of them. That I feel wholeheartedly in. It could be just opinion of mine, but I feel that that is typically going to be the case. So you lay them out in priority. And there are some people out there, there are people who have their beliefs that multitasking is something within this equation that is going to help you out. In my personal experience, when I try to multitask to get multiple things done at once, it ends up multiplying problems, smaller problems within the larger problems, because I'm trying to focus on this and this at the same time, and then I lose focus, or I don't have memory of this, and then I have to start over, and then by the time I'm done, I typically end up taking more time multitasking than I would as if I were to prioritize everything, lay it out in order, and then do it one by one. So my suggestion, not everyone's the same, and you may have a differentiating opinion of this, but I feel that laying it out in priority and doing everything one by one and focusing on one thing is going to help you out extramentally. So that's just my personal opinion. Once you have everything laid out, everything's prioritized, you tackle one by one. When you get to the end of all of that and you realize that this wasn't as bad as you thought it could be, or what you were thinking it could be, you have all your emotions in check, everything you're feeling is in check, that's a great feeling, because you've just managed your stress greatly. And that's the first step to taking on any of this. The second step is self-awareness. Self-awareness is the point where you recognize emotions. You recognize exactly what you're feeling through a process called mindfulness. And a lot of people will talk about mindfulness as synonymously the word would be meditation. You don't necessarily need to meditate, but you get to a point to where you have a moment-to-moment connection with yourself, and you analyze what you're feeling from head to toe, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whatever it is. But taking everything else out, all of your other thoughts about what's going on in the world, what's going on at work, what's going on in your relationships, and just reflecting and noticing what you are feeling in that moment, very important step. But if you can't manage stress, you're going to be overwhelmed with thoughts outside of the moment to moment connection. So it's important that these steps go in order, no matter what you're feeling. So I'm gonna list off. I've written down some questions here that I'm going to list off, and we'll see if any of these feel unfamiliar. So the first one is, do your experience flow, or are they accompanied by physical sensations? Do you experience individual emotions such as sadness, fear, joy, and anger? Can you experience intense feelings that capture the attention of you or others? And finally, do you pay attention to your emotions? If any of those feel unfamiliar to you, well, then there's a possibility that you've turned off or turned down some of your emotions. In order to reconnect, or in order to have emotional intelligence, you need to correct with some of those core emotions. You can't do that without mindfulness, without sitting down and actually feeling it. And the thing is it's going to take patience, and it's going to take practice over time to actually do that. You could be sitting there for the first 50 times of your life trying to practice mindfulness and seeing things within yourself and not actually really feel that enlightened state. It's going to take practice. When you first start doing it, you're going to get other thoughts roaming through your head. It's just going to be natural. It's going to be hard to get everything that's turned off turned back on, and that's perfectly okay. But it's important that after you manage your stress, and then after you're self-aware of the emotions that you're feeling, to sit down and actually practice it. Because once you do, it's going to get you to a greater place. You're going to be able to excel in other aspects of your life. And I feel that that's a very, very important thing. So those are the first two key steps to building emotional intelligence. The third one is going to be social awareness. What social awareness is after you've managed your stress and after you've been mindful of what you're feeling, that's when you can turn in and pick up nonverbal cues in social situations from other people. Why is this the third on the list? Well, imagine yourself worrying about so many other things and not being able to manage your stress. So you come to a coworker to find a resolution to something, but you're so worried about the problem and you can't handle the stress of the problem, and you're overwhelmed and you're not even aware of what you're feeling, but you try to have a conversation with them. What are the chances that you're going to be able to actively listen to them and pick up on their nonverbal cues about what they feel about something? It's going to be very difficult for you to. And that's why this is third on the list. If you don't know yourself well enough to be able to pick up on what you're feeling, how are you going to be empathetic of what other people are feeling? It's going to be very difficult for you to. So after the first two are completed and you worked on them, let's go to the third. Pick up on nonverbal cues with other people. And what is that going to do for you when you're able to do that? You're going to be able to build a connection with people and love and be passionate about whatever all of you are trying to achieve. It only makes sense, right? Nonverbal cues. Even if a person's trying to explain something to you and they have the vocabulary of what they're trying to explain, but it's not coming out exactly as they express, especially if it comes in the form of criticism. They want to find a way around it to where it's not going to be so harsh on you, but their nonverbal cues, their mind is going to do automatically. You're going to be able to pick up whether someone's annoyed, angry, fearful, joy, whatever the emotion that they're feeling is. Your brain is designed to actually use the muscles in your face to give off emotional cues, and you're going to be able to pick up on that. And when you're doing it without being self-aware, people are going to be able to pick up on that through you. So if you haven't worked on any of this, and you're not saying what you mean to say, but your face is giving it off, there are going to be times where people just, they know that your mind is somewhere else. This can take away opportunity from you if it's in the workplace. This can take away a social connection from you, because even though that you're trying to navigate through this through vocabulary, but your face is saying something different, people are going to shy away from it. And it's not that they're blaming you for who you are, but it's, especially if it's an opportunity and you just don't have it together with your emotional intelligence, you may not get that opportunity because they can see it in your face that you're really not there, that you're not paying attention, that you're not actively listening to them and being receptive, as well as giving information back to them. It can be a very bad look. And jumping ahead of 1 and 2 on the list of building emotional intelligence. So social awareness is a very big thing. Once you get past the first 2, the social awareness, being able to pick up on the social cues is going to be very important. Relationship management is going to be the next thing on the list, and the last key step in building emotional intelligence. And that comes along with being able to be aware of nonverbal cues when it's expressed to you. And that's exactly what I was just explaining. Even if you don't, or if you're not aware of the nonverbal cues that you're pointing out, well, other people are going to be aware of those nonverbal cues in you. But with the relationship aspect of this, you can put things into perspective with something like humor. Humor is a great one because it's an antidote for stress. It's an antidote for stress. So you have a stressful situation and you need to get through it, and you have an idea of a resolution, but people are feeling nervous about it or they're wary of it. So you crack a joke about it. It lightens the mood, right? It lightens the mood, makes things feel a little better. People feel a little better. The burden of that stress has kind of been lifted. And then also the most important thing that people overlook is it puts things into perspective. When you can make a witty joke about something, like a situation that's not so great, it can put it into perspective for people. It helps people understand that you understand what's going on. And when you can follow up with that with discussion about how to resolve it, well, 1 through 4 is complete. You're going to build that social connection. You're going to build that trust with people. You're going to be able to feel good about yourself, and you're eventually going to be able to achieve that goal. Well, those are all the notes that I had about emotional intelligence. And I thank everyone here for joining me tonight. I appreciate everyone joining my live on YouTube and Twitch. So thank you again. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I will be publishing this after this episode. I'll be publishing it on Spotify. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you have any questions or suggestions about future topics for this show, please email me at noroomforcomfortpodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you would like to be a call-in guest about a unique situation or unique experience in your life or a topic you'd like to discuss with me, again, noroomforcomfortpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to have that discussion with you. So thanks again for joining me. I will be airing 2 Wednesdays from now at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'll see you then.